Howdy guys, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to do a little bit of a garden tour. Now I do have a house building video already recorded. I'm working on editing it. I should have that up Saturday. But anyway, let's get on with this garden tour. I feel like the best way to do this would be starting in the very back of the yard and then moving our way forward, going through all the beds, showing you what's already planted, maybe talking about what plans we have for later. At first glance, this bed may look like not much because it just looks like an old cage set in the backyard. So this is actually the cage that I had for my rabbit Appa. When I wasn't able to have him free roaming, he would stay in this cage. It was nice, he was able to live in it. A lot of times now I'll bring my cat outside and she'll hang out in it, one of my indoor cats. But if we take a closer look, I got a little cluster of beans growing right there, and you can also see a sunflower growing by it. That was the main thing I started this bed for, was to grow sunflowers. But unfortunately, the birds had better ideas, and apparently they fit between these bars. But there is another sunflower. And then there is another sunflower. And then that guy all the way in the back touching the cage, that is a sunflower who has just popped up. It does not have any true leaves yet. This sunflower right here is the second to last one that we have in this bed so far. And then right there is our last sunflower. So if you notice, I said that that was the second to last sunflower so far. That is because they are still germinating. It's almost every day I come out here and I find more sunflowers. I also planted some cosmos in there that have not came up yet, along with some calendula and zinnias. So I'm just still hopeful for those. Patch, we have one of our current compost piles. Let's see what the temp is right now. Is at about 120. When it starts to drop again, it'll be time to turn it so that we can keep it hot and keep it composting. And then next to our current compost pile, we have the Squampost, which if you don't know what the Squampost is, it's a compost pile that I work on all fall and winter, mostly using pumpkins that either I grew or other people grew for Halloween or even bought for Halloween. And then I compost what nobody wants to use, and I make this big old pile, and then I grow a bunch of squash and pumpkins in it. While I was waiting on all my pumpkins to sprout, because I leave a lot of the seeds in here from the ones I compost, and they generally germinate themselves, I did put some brassicas in here, which should be done soon. I'm not good at telling what type of brassica is what. I know that I have cauliflower and I have broccoli in this bed. Ooh, actually, I know that this corner one is broccoli. And then at the end of the Squampost, I have this little mound with some other things growing in it. The main thing in the mound is actually some more sunflowers. I really like them. They're what got me gardening as a teenager, and I continue to grow them every year. So this here is a mammoth sunflower. It's one of the ones that get really tall and a really big head. And then this here is a chocolate cherry sunflower. That's what most of the ones in the cage bed are the chocolate cherry. The one that's like in the far back and just has its cotyledons is one of the mammoth ones. But I have quite a few of the mammoths on this hill, and then a few of the little chocolate cherries, which if you've followed me gardening in any other season on social media, you've definitely seen the chocolate cherries. And we have two more mammoths down there. One of them's being kind of weird. This is what I was saying is being kind of weird. It's almost like the cotyledon sent the shoot out the side instead of the middle, and it's just kind of struggling. But with that being said, we are getting a ton of squash germinating. Like I said, I leave seeds to stuff I compost for it to germinate on its own. But I did also direct sow some other stuff. This pumpkin came up with yellow cotyledons. Apparently it's overwatered, but it wasn't anything I could do. We've been just experiencing a ton of rain. But we got a ton of pumpkins and squash starting. Actually, I'm pretty sure that this one is watermelon. I did plant some watermelon over here. But yeah, this is the Squampost. And then kind of behind the Squampost, we did something new this year. Clay cut out a patch of the cedar behind it so that we could have like a little hangout. There's a bench back here because we were hanging out with our friend. And back here we put some native passion vine. and it is doing so good. I'll show you our other passion vines here soon because it's a propagation off of one of our own. We also planted some native Coreopsis in here. In this space, our goal was basically just to make like a cool little hangout in the shade with mostly native plants. I say mostly because Clay did tell me that underneath the passion vine, he did put some cilantro seeds because they prefer shade, but that'll be harvested. It won't become a problem. If you live around me, you probably grew up loving this honeysuckle, but it is actually super, super invasive. I will put in a picture of the invasive honeysuckle versus native. I'm pretty sure this is from either Asia or Europe, I'm not sure which, but it is super invasive. Eat as much of it as you want. Don't feel guilt about it. Pull off as many flowers before they can pollinate. You can see here, it has vined all over and it's just choking out any plant in its path. And our goal with that passion vine is hopefully we can train it. Obviously, it's not going to outcompete the invasive honeysuckle, but if we keep cutting it back and training the passion vine, hopefully it can take over. This is your reminder to eat invasive species that are edible. Don't feel guilt about it. Eat them. Replace them with native species. And then coming out of our little shade patch, and then you turn this way, we have some logs that we have inoculated with some mushroom spawn, and we're just waiting for them to fruit. Then directly next to the logs, we have our bed that last year Clay made to be a pepper bed, but I'm not sure exactly all he has planned for it, but I'll show you what we got going on right now. Right now, he has a ton of arugula going on. These plants that we thought were crimson clover, but we learned are not. So basically, I wanted to keep these because I love crimson clover, and it was kind of growing in the way it would. And it was even getting these little things that were making me think that like those were premature crimson buds. But then it started to actually flower. And then when it actually flowered, it revealed that it is not crimson clover. I don't remember the name of this guy, but when I come to him, I will show you the small version because I get them too. So I got this to show you guys. This is the smaller version of that big plant that I thought was crimson clover. Very disappointing, but Clay likes it. This is a smaller version though. Anyway, like I was saying, I wanted to keep it because I thought it was crimson clover and that's one of my favorite plants. But Clay now wants to keep it as cover crop so he can chop and drop it and use it as like natural food for his garden bed. Here he has some kale growing, and then I don't remember what kind of pepper this is. We had some really bad frost damage, so it's like just now coming back. We did not have the space in the camper to keep all of our starts inside, unfortunately, so we just tried to cover things, and not everything survived as well as it could have. I don't start everything from seed, and I got this Trick-Do pepper. It's a cool jalapeno for my groceries. So in this bed, we have some perennial sunflowers that'll make a tuber. They're called Jerusalem artichokes or fartichokes. Directly next to the bed that we call the pepper bed, but I'm not sure what we're doing this year. Probably more peppers. We have this bed. And in it, we have some more Jerusalem artichoke. They are also called sunchoke. I know in the previous clip I mentioned that they are called fartichoke. I think this plant is called fleabane. I'm not 100%, but my ladybugs love it, and ladybugs are a very beneficial predator. If you see ladybugs, you want them. They are going to keep all the pests out of your garden. So I keep those because apparently the ladybugs like to lay their babies on there. And then between the Jerusalem artichoke and what I believe is called a fleabane, we have another what I believe to be a Trick-Do pepper. It's either a Trick-Do or a sweet banana pepper. Those were the two that we got from the store that day. Moving down the bed, we have quite a few peas, and Clay actually just set up this teepee for them, so hopefully they'll start vining up it and maybe giving us some peas because they have not flowered yet. And then in between the two pea teepees, we have a tomato cage with a tomato that we don't know what kind. It came from the compost. My best guess is a San Marzano, but you guys will have to just wait and see if you want to know. And then moving down a little bit more, like I said, another pea teepee. And then Clay has a bunch of squash down here. In fact, there were so many that he transplanted some to the squampost. And then another pepper that is either a tricked you or a sweet banana. And then moving on to right behind us, we have this bed, and you can probably hardly see the bed itself because I put just a few native strawberries in there and it is just going crazy. This year our strawberry harvest is pretty small, but we're supposed to get a bigger one in the second year, so I am really excited for that. But this is our second year growing them, first year getting a harvest, and I am pleased to say the least. I will show you guys the amounts of strawberries that we have. I'll put in some pics of the strawberries that we have harvested so far. I almost forgot to show this bed. All the tomatoes in it are kind of sad, but all the tomatoes in here are going to eventually be Hornworm City, because I love hornworms a lot. If you guys didn't know, I actually have a tattoo of one. But so those are basically just like volunteers that we pulled up and then put there so that when we get hornworms on the tomatoes that we like really care about, they won't demolish them, but we don't have to kill hornworms because, like I said, I really love them. And then we do have just a bunch of circular herb beds that are just basically going cover crop. This one does have some carrots in it. We love comfrey. You can make some really good plant food with it and plant tea, and they also make some really pretty flowers that the bees love. But like I said, we have quite a few of these circular herb beds. I'll show you that this comfrey has some beautiful flowers. I wish there were some bees out right now I could show you. And then between this herb bed and the next one, which is just full of cover crop that I really need to chop and drop, we have a little native wildflower patch, which I'm super proud of. But that brings us to our blueberry bush that we have potted up, and we love her so much. We had a really good harvest last year. She's kind of late to putting on leaves this year. We're really hoping to get at least a decent harvest this year. We have our blueberries set up right next to our Ruth Stout method of growing potatoes. This is a method where you basically like rough up the dirt, put your potatoes down, and then just cover them with hay. We just wanted to try this as an experiment, but we do have potatoes in a bucket growing as well. And then this bed here, eventually we will be referring to as our Africa bed. It does not hold much water, so we are choosing to grow a bunch of plants from Africa because they tend to be very drought resistant. So I did want to come to the shade patch where I could actually talk to the camera for a minute to talk a little bit about the Africa bed that we're planning on doing. So we were inspired by another gardening content creator that we had seen online doing something they were calling the African Three Sisters, where instead of doing the traditional corn, squash, and beans, they were doing okra, melon, and black-eyed peas, and they called it the African Three Sisters, and we were super inspired by it because, like I said, our bed is dry often, so we need some drought-resistant plants, and a lot of plants from Africa tend to be more drought resistant. So in that bed we plan on growing okra, we have some sprouts going, melon, and then black-eyed peas, and then I think a few other African crops. Like, I'm not sure what all Clay has planned. If you guys have any suggestions for some cool African crops, let us know. We are growing bitter melon, horned cucumber, and then there's this melon that kind of looks like a black pumpkin. That might be the Kiwano melon. I'm not sure. I'm not good at remembering names. But I'll take you back to that bed because it is not the Africa bed right now. It is still a spring garden bed. I'm going to show you what we have in there now. So right now we have a ton of brassicas. This is a Chinese cabbage. It's related to bok choy, but it's more cabbagey. In my opinion, it tastes more like broccoli. And then there, I think we have a little broccoli plant. And then these are either broccoli or cauliflower. I'm not sure which. Along with that, and we do have some peas in this bed too. And then I believe this is one of his little melons that he's got grown already. Clay usually runs most of the backyard garden, and I do more of the front yard garden. This here was something Clay and I were super excited to get. It's called a tray to grow. So you fill up this trash can looking thing with water, and then there is a valve down there that siphons water so that your plants are constantly being bottom watered. And here we have a purple tiger pepper that is fighting to come back after frost, a tricked pepper, and then that was a sweet banana pepper, but we are hoping that it can fight and come back. It was damaged in our most recent frost. Then if we move on to the side and front of our house, we have our bucket with potatoes in it. And as most of you know, while we're building our house, we live in a camper. To not waste the space that the hitch takes up, Clay made me this bed. And in here I have a ton going on, including my little fairy garden, sorry. But it is mostly a flower garden. If we start back here, I have a ton of volunteer tomatoes because over the winter we did have a compost pile here. I have a ton of tomato volunteers. This is where all my tomato volunteers for the bed with the peas and then the Hornworm City came from. This hitch area used to be a compost pile last winter, and so all the tomatoes that we composted, a lot of them sprouted. We're just going to let them be. And like I said, I have my little fairy garden. And then I have another native coreopsis. I'm not sure what this flower is called, but I really like it, and it was growing somewhere else in the yard, and so Clay moved it to go with my fairy garden. I love growing nasturtiums. You can actually use their leaves to make pesto. It's a completely edible plant. It's very delicious, very pretty flowers, and this year, I didn't know I was getting a variegated variety. I don't know if it was meant to or if it just mutated, but all my seeds came out variegated. We have another native coreopsis. Real quick, I'll show you guys my little fairy garden. My house, I got at Goodwill. I also got my actual fairy and her dog at Goodwill. My little gnomes I've had for like ever. They just come in and out of storage sometimes. The goat I actually found somewhere just on the ground and I liked him. The birds and the bugs are actually pottery pieces by my mother-in-law that broke off, but I love them too much to just let them go to waste, so I made them part of my fairy garden. The what you might call log that the bluebird and the one gnome is sitting on is actually a piece of buffalo horn that my boyfriend had as scrap from some other projects that he had, and so I added it to my fairy garden. I figured some little creatures might want to hide in there like a lizard, and it looks just like a cute little log. Sitting up on the ledge of my bed, I have a wandering plant. This one was my sister's, and she gave it to me when she had to move and downsize her plants. It's not doing so good, but I just gave it a cleanup. Hopefully it'll come back real soon. Sitting right next to it, I also have my lemon tree. My lemon tree is just coming back from winter. We accidentally left it outside a little too long, so she's bouncing back. But my lemon tree is a Eureka lemon. It'll make pink lemons, and I don't know if all Eureka lemon trees are, but the one we got was variegated, and we have it over here because my wandering plant is variegated. So is my nasturtium. So it's just kind of like a little variegated party over here. The fairies in the fairy garden also have a chocolate cherry sunflower. This right here is a little baby sunchoke / Jerusalem artichoke. That is one of the transplants of squash from Clay's pea bed. I'm not sure like what kind it is. And then there I have another mammoth sunflower. And then if we come around to this side of the hitch bed, I have a few more volunteer tomatoes, probably my biggest one. And then I have a marigold growing. I can't wait. I love marigolds. And all of these guys is called lamb's quarter, and you can use it like in the place of spinach. It's a natural foraging food. It's native, and so I don't take all of it out. I kind of thin it out. Like this one here is getting a little too big. Always remember to shake your roots off so you don't waste your soil. And then right there I have a little baby nasturtium coming in. And then next to the hitch bed, we have one of our trellised beds. Those are some of our bottle gourds that we grew last year. They are still curing, so we can make crafts with them. But in here, this is where our passion vine mains are. Like this here is one of the ones that we planted last year. We do have some more sunchoke in this bed. Another mammoth sunflower. And then like in the middle of this archway, the passion vine made a new shoot. And then next to our passion vine bed, we have a bunch of starts that have not gone on the ground yet. A lot of them are still recovering from some frost. Forgot to mention there's a couple tomatoes in the passion vine bed. I'm pretty sure this is one of those woolly cates. And then this here is our gourd bed. It has the trellis that goes all the way up. I'll show you pictures of how much it covered our house last year. As of right now, we just have this tomato in here, and I believe another tomato or two. Another tomato, and a pepper that's fighting for dear life. Other side of our porch, we have what I call my bed, and it has another one of those plants that I can't remember the name of. If I can, I'll put it up on screen. But I need to chop and drop it to get it out of here, because now that I know that it's not a crimson clover, in my opinion, it's not worth it having it blocking the growth of these beautiful, more variegated nasturtiums. But yeah, in my bed I have some nasturtiums. This is another one of those tricked me peppers. Another native coreopsis because I love them. That there is 2 of the sweet banana peppers. And then here I have one of those purple tiger peppers that is fighting to come back. This is our only jalapeno plant, and so I'm really hoping that it's able to make a comeback. I have a ton of baby calendulas, and I cannot wait because they kind of get big, but I have a lot of them in here. So this bed should be pretty full of flowers this summer. And then I have another one of those Chinese cabbages, celery, and then this here is celeriac, which is basically celery root. And then I have a ton of brassicas coming up, which we're pretty sure are probably arugula or kale. And then every year in this bed, I grow my favorite tomato, which is a yellow pear, and we believe this is the one, but like I said, they all got frost damage and things got mislabeled, so we're not 100%. Hopefully it is. And this will be the trellis that'll go up as always. And then right next to my bed, last stop, is this bed that Clay made that he is trying to grow some tree seeds in. And that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys liked today's video. Like I said, be on the lookout for a house update. Should be on Saturday. I'm about to work on the editing right now. One thing I did want to say was you guys are welcome to follow me on Instagram if you guys want more garden updates than this. I usually post something about my garden on my Instagram story, Snapchat too, about once a day, so that'll give you more like daily updates. I will put my ad on the screen. It's slightly different than my YouTube one because on each app the other username is taken. That being said, maybe drop in the comments what you're excited to grow this season. Maybe something that you're foraging. Just something you're excited about for this warmer weather. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I open up the comments to any discussion. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Thank you guys so much. Stay positive.